Another day, another round of good news for Ohio State. JT Tuimoloau back for 2024, his senior season, along with a whole host of Buckeyes who will be back for the 2024 season, especially on the defensive side. That's Andy Backstrom on the other side of that screen, actually in the middle of that screen. Tim May all the way over there in sunny, beautiful Hilliard, Ohio. I'm Spencer Holbrook. Let's talk about it. Tim, what's the impact of JT Tuimoloau returning for the Buckeyes?
Completes it, man. It completes it. I mean, this has a chance to be, on paper, as good a defense as we've seen in a long time in Ohio State, if not, in the modern age of modern offenses. This defense is jam-packed with veterans who are good football players who got even better this past year and are coming back with a chip on their shoulder and something to prove. So you put all that together. Wow. I mean, I'm like I said earlier on this show, and I've been referring to it ever since. And, what I said on LettermenRow.com was that, Michigan won a game in January. Ohio State is set about to winning the month of January. And it speaks highly to Ryan Day and his staff and what they put together, the culture they put together there, that guys aren't satisfied. They want another shot at it before they move on to the National Football League. In whatever realm they would have ended up in, first round, third round, seventh round, free agent, they want another shot because they know college football comes and goes. Even though some guys are lasting 6 or 7 years now, college football only comes and goes once in your life. Go for the gusto. It also helps, of course, that you have NILs, collectives sitting there helping you grab for that gusto.
Andy?
Yeah, JT Tuimoloau is a huge return for this team. He had a career high 38 tackles, 5 sacks, 37 pressures generated, 677 defensive snaps. Those, again, are all career highs for him this year. There's 2 moments that stuck out to me. Notre Dame game, they don't win that game without JT Tuimoloau with back-to-back stops. Ohio State defense needed a stop to get the ball back to Kyle McCord in that offense. He delivered first with a sack and TFL, and then with a pass deflection that could have been an interception. He was so close on that one. And then at Penn State, the game at home, actually this year, kind of doubling up as an encore performance from the year before against Penn State. He had a sack to start the fourth quarter that kind of helped Ohio State after that muff punt. And then on the next possession, he had a pass deflection on 4th and 4 that led to eventually Ohio State's game-sealing touchdown. So he has been so huge. And people will say, okay, where was JT down the stretch? Well, okay, I recognize that of his 4 games with 5 or more pressures, they were in the first 7 games. But that's when Jack Sawyer started to heat up down the road. You can't stop both of these guys. Jack Sawyer, quieter in the first half of the season, while JT emerges. JT, quieter in the second half of the season, while Jack Sawyer emerges. These guys feed off of each other. The fact that both of them are coming back is huge. And you can't just point to the numbers all the time, because when one is down in the numbers, the other one is up. And that's because they help each other.
It also helps that they're having 2 of their top 3 defensive tackles back for next year, and then another year of development for other guys. Mike Hall off to the NFL. Tyleik Williams, though, and Ty Hamilton both back. Hero Kanu, another year of development. You talk about another year of development for Jason Moore. Caden McDonald, another year of development as a full-time football player for the first time in his life with Tywone Malone. So the cupboard is stacked here for 2024. Now, it might be completely bare for 25, but that's not what we're here to talk about, guys. We'll worry about that when it gets here. That's a song and dance for another day and time, and we'll do that when we need to. But this is a loaded defensive line for 2024, and JT Tuimoloau really completes that. I know these guys aren't top of the line NFL draft picks right now, but they could become that. And even if they're not ever top of the line NFL draft picks, they are damn good college football players. And Ohio State's not asking them to be first round NFL draft picks. Quite frankly, Ohio State wants them to be, but it ultimately doesn't really matter. If Ohio State goes out and wins a national championship and all of these guys are undrafted, who cares? They won a national championship. So, that's the thing that gets me is, well, these guys aren't living up to a first round potential. They don't have to. They have to live up to a can you beat Michigan and win a championship in 2024. That's what they're set out to do. If they would have beat Michigan and went to the playoff this year, I'm putting it on paper now, or I'm putting it out there now. I don't think most of these guys are coming back. But the fact that you lose to Michigan,
you're pretty bold. You're pretty bold there, Spencer.
Yeah, but if they beat Michigan, I don't know if any of these guys come back. But the fact that they didn't beat Michigan, they didn't go to the college playoff, sets up for 2024 to be the year for Ryan Day, the year for Jim Knowles, the year for all of these
Whoever
guys.
the offensive coordinator is.
Yeah, to prove it.
Yeah,
Tim?
I agree 100%, Spence. And it's speaking, and granted, we all know that NIL has something to do with this. I mean, the collectives are taking their bows too, in a lot of these situations, and they should. But so there's a lot of grease going on these rails. But the bottom line is, you can't touch what a guy would make in the NFL, even a third-round draft pick, with some kind of NIL deal. If in fact this guy's a solid player, which these guys all are, it speaks to me. It really does speak to me about that. This talk of brotherhood is not just idle chatter, that these guys all felt like this. I think Andy brought it up the other day when we were talking that Ryan Day seemed to have, some cards up his sleeve when it came to knowing what guys were going to do vis-a-vis declaring for the NFL draft. And that was even before the Cotton Bowl. And I thought the defense played pretty damn good in the Cotton Bowl, with the exception of one drive where they really needed to stop and didn't get it. But other than that, you hold a team to 14 points, you've more than done your job, in my opinion, on that day. But with that said, it speaks to these guys having unfinished business, and that speaks to their maturity, in my opinion, and their, like you just pointed out, Spence, how many chances do you get to play for a national championship? Well, zippo if you've left for the NFL. And these guys all realize that there's unfinished business. These chances are fleeting, and why not come back? And really, JT Tuimoloau, compared to declaring his intentions 2 weeks ago, is really just stepping right into an all-star cast, and it's not as bold as maybe the first guy who did it, but it's definitely bold nonetheless.
Yeah, Tyleik Williams was bold to be the first one.
Yeah,
but he's someone that also could have left for the NFL draft. His stock was super high. His production level as a defensive tackle is hard to replicate. I don't know if he will next year. That's obviously not why he came back. There's more you can show on your tape than just stats that show up on the paper. But those are, examples of guys that look. JT as well. 5 days ago, Mel Kiper from ESPN, who is the god of all projections, right, with the mock drafts, JT was number 2 among defensive ends, among draft eligible prospects for the 2024 draft. This is not a case of a guy that, he wouldn't have been a first round pick. He wouldn't have gone high. He just had to come back. There are guys at Ohio State right now. I mean, Jack Sawyer could have been a day 2 pick, easily second round, early second round pick. These are guys that are deciding to come back, even though there is a pretty much close to guaranteed opportunity at the NFL level, at a high level, at those first couple of rounds of the draft. And that says a lot about this team. So I guarantee that will be a notion among, maybe some of the rival fan bases that, hey, this is just because these guys couldn't make it or they weren't going to be high draft picks. No, that's not true at all. These guys would have been pretty high draft picks. And you can look at the stats, the sack numbers, and try to make up your own theories of why they're coming back. None of that has to do with anything. People watch the tape. They see the impact of JT, Jack Sawyer, whether it's Tyleik Williams, guys on that defensive front, and they know they mean business. And that means so much goodness for Larry Johnson, for Jim Knowles, for this entire defense.
Yeah, you look down the roster now. If you made a list of the guys that they couldn't afford to lose to the NFL draft, I think they've all come back. And that's not a knock on Mike Hall whatsoever. But, the more impactful guys on this defense, I think you're getting them all back. Denzel Burke, cornerback 1 on this roster. Lathan Ransom, the top safety on this roster. Cody Simon, who I think at the end of the year was playing as the best linebacker on this roster. They're all back. Then you look on the defensive line for 3.5 starters, I guess. Ty Hamilton being a half a starter, Mike Hall being a half a starter, with Tyleik Williams and JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer. The transfer portal was friendly to the Buckeyes on the defensive side of the ball. Not a lot of guys defecting from the program on there who made the impact this year and will make an impact next year. There's still an opportunity for Ohio State to go into the transfer portal if they need to and find another safety to be that missing piece there, or, a depth piece, a defensive line if they need to. I think that's a little bit alleviated now that JT's back. But, everything is setting up for 2024 to be the year. And I've already said on the Lettermen Lounge message board, go get that coverage for $1 for your first month. This is a beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, win a playoff game, like, expectation. And now that all of these guys are officially back, Tim, I don't think that's unfair to put on Ryan Day. Like, hey, you have to beat Michigan. You have to win the Big Ten, and you have to at least win one of the 4 potential playoff games that you play in.
Well, I'm doing an impression of a guy putting on a backpack. That's the backpack that Ryan Day wears every year, and he's definitely wearing it this year, and he knows it. And this idea that he was going to just sit pat, and things are going to be all right. Like Kevin Bacon, all is well, stay calm, all is well. I mean, no, all was not well. He knew that leaving the season, and we've seen what togetherness means. We've seen what kind of culture he has developed in that locker room. I mean, if you're going to blame, if somebody's going to get out on a limb and say Ryan Day has lost his locker room, then you have to, that same person has to get on the same limb and say, oh, I was wrong. Ryan Day has not lost his locker room. In fact, look at all these guys they've got coming back. They don't even have to change the names on the lockers for most of these guys anymore. So I'd say that's keeping your locker room together. We'll see what he does finally with his staff here in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be interesting to watch that. It's also going to be interesting because it was really fun watching you and Matt Parker talk about this yesterday on the recruiting side of things on YouTube on Lettermen Row, just about the Caleb Downs possibilities and things like that. Is just before we started this video, of course, Alabama has basically hired DeBoer from Washington. Whether that will stem the tide, pardon the expression, of guys possibly jumping into the transfer portal and leaving remains to be seen. But what's funny is this defensive roster could be even better a week from now.
Yeah, I mean, guys would have to go into the transfer portal, and then Ohio State would have to recruit out of the transfer portal and probably come up with, at least 1,870 reasons to come to Ohio State, maybe a few different others, if you know what I'm trying to say there. But that's just the way of college football nowadays. And
hey, when you speak tongue in cheek, you don't wink. Go ahead now.
Okay, I'll take the wink back then. Okay, so we're not going to speculate on guys who could join the roster because they're not in the transfer portal yet. If somebody goes in the transfer portal, though, I pinky promise Ohio State fans, Lettermen Row, Andy Backstrom, Tim May, the 40-year vet Tim May. He's going to change his name to that, I think. And me.
41-year vet, maybe.
This might be season 41.
I don't know.
No reveals yet, Tim.
No reveals yet.
Tim May, the 40-year vet. This is a perfect transition, Tim. Tim May, the 40-year vet.
I don't have a $17.5 million oceanfront home that I bought just to go to on weekends. What a joke. What a joke that was on everybody. Go ahead now.
This is a perfect transition. Tim May, the 40-year vet, is trying to figure out if he's coming back for season 41. JT Tuimoloau, though, is coming back for year 4 at Ohio State. He will be back for another one. The Buckeyes loading up on the defensive side of the ball. JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, Ty Hamilton, Tyleik Williams, Cody Simon, Denzel Burke, Jordan Hancock, Lathan Ransom. If you have them as your favorite player, they're probably back on the roster for next year because that's how good this defense is going to be. Get familiar with it, folks. The Buckeyes should have a top 5 defense. Andy Backstrom, he'll be there to cover it all 365 days a year like he always does. Tim May as well, and me, Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to the latest Rapid Reaction as we react to another Buckeye re-entering the fold for 2024. We'll see you guys back here whenever we need to be.